Good morning, everybody. I am not just the energy correspondent for Mirador Television, I'm also the editor and publisher of greenbarrel.com. This is a website which its main aim is to get more investment into renewable energy companies. This is important because when we started up the website 6.5 years ago, it was after the abortive Copenhagen summit when in worrying about the climate, because polls showed that only 25% of those asked weren't particularly concerned about it. Also, fossil fuels didn't seem cheap and abundant and not particularly threatening back then. This meant that a small company who was in the renewable sector had a lot of trouble finding the money to get going. For example, they would go to the stock exchange. These companies we write about are mostly on the alternative investment market on the London Stock Exchange. And they would raise money, but they would have to spend it all on proving up the product or the good idea they had and getting over regulatory hurdles. So we had 50 companies listed on our website, and now there are now about 36 because so many of them went bust. We felt, in writing about these things over the years, that we were shrieking in the wilderness because nobody seemed to be listening or no change seemed to happen. And suddenly, in May and June last year, there was an extraordinary spike. Hydrogen companies have become the flavour of the month. And for example, my colleague, Julian Singer, gave me a list of 12 companies that were all loss-making, but were all going through the roof. There had been a fantastic spike in these companies. There were 4 categories. He identified 12. There are 4 categories: waste management, storage, funds, and battery and fuel cells. And these companies we don't ever tip or promote the shares, because that would be very dangerous in terms of the authorities. But we just set out the arguments. Now, Ceres Power was a fuel cell stock which never made any money. Then in June last year, they were on the market at £6 a share. They subsequently went up to £15. There's the fuel cell. Now, if you look at the battery sector, which is storage, Ilika is another company which actually was, I bought them at 51p, and they subsequently in September, by Christmas, they've gone up to 251p. And although I don't buy lots of shares, I decided that I would put my money where my mouth was in this instance. And so I bought some Ilika and I bought some Ceres Power, and there's another one called ITM Power, which was loss-making, but I bought those at something like 50p, and they've gone up to about 300p. So my ISA almost doubled in no time at all. So it is very important that we make sure there is investment in these companies so that they can actually meet the energy mix. And that is the real point about setting targets for reducing emissions, transmissions and saving the climate. We need to get this investment rolling along. Otherwise, the targets may not be made. The missing link in renewable energy is storage, because the wind doesn't blow all the time and the sun doesn't shine on it all the time. And although they have found, or they're making great strides in battery technology, but they cannot get so far sustainability through for storage. And that really could affect, whether our targets for reducing emissions can be met. Really? Well, that's all I've got to say for now.